arrows, but nothing going there. And now, Seal might take it. Now we have a 2v1. Now very low health, and first blood does
going back in, but flashing away.
tandem to push back here. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever we may find you. It is week 3 of the Hive Esports League of Legends series. Our Aram Mayhem 2v2 tournament is back underway here for week 3 of the league phase here after 2 weeks. It is still the same two teams that find themselves at the top of the pile, but neither of whom are playing today. It's 3rd through 6th that are going to be playing today in week 3, as you see. On the left-hand side, game 1 is going to be Seal9 versus Svetia Vyjeseny, which, for those of you who don't know, translates into Slovenian as Flowers in Autumn. Game 2 is Nat and Joe versus Debutants Grompies. Obviously, Nat and Joe does feature the reigning champion, Newt Silver, from the Teamfight Tactics series we ran a few months ago. So, George, with that said, we've got the bottom 4 teams all duking it out together tonight. What could we well be expecting?
Well, hopefully a lot of revenge. They're gonna be wanting to get up on that leaderboard, so definitely gonna be pushing for some good games today. I think we've got some pretty good games coming up. Again, Seal9 and Grompies last week both drew. However, Sveti Vyjeseny and Nat and Joe in their singular games went 0-2. So hopefully some redemption.
Definitely. Obviously, all 4 of these teams are yet to score a win, actually, so far this season. Of course, in the first 2 weeks, only week 1 saw teams winning a game, with Team Ultimus and Yowie Addicts recovering, winning both of their games, and both games in week 2 ending in draws for all 4 teams. So that is why the leaderboard is currently as it is, heading almost into the second half of the league phase. So this season is winding down very, very quickly here. We have got a few minutes to kill before Seal9 versus Flowers in Autumn does kick off for game 1. So we're going to start off early here. Can we get potentially some predictions from you, George, on what we might see results-wise here?
Well, I think the games are going to be. I think there are going to be 2 draws for
Ooh,
both games. Like we saw last week, even though you're good players like Seal9, you could still get screwed over by your champion picks. So depending on what champions the teams get and depending on what augments they get, it really could go either way.
fair enough. I think I would want to see a bit more variance. I want to see some teams sort of make their way towards the top of the standings, because right now we're very stagnant at the moment with everyone constantly drawing. There's not much movement
Yeah.
um, in the league phase standings. So I'm gonna say Seal9 for a first win, 2-0,
Okay.
and then Nat and Joe for some revenge as well. I think against Grompies,
Yeah.
because they find themselves at the foot of the leaderboard alongside Flowers in Autumn, both of whom, of course, are below the elimination line, which we'll touch on in just a minute. So both of those looking for revenge. So, of course, 6 teams do enter the league phase to start things, but only 4 can go through to the playoffs. That leaves 2 teams eliminated at the end of week 6, which right now are Flowers in Autumn and Nat and Joe. Do you want to give us a quick, more detailed rundown on how the tournament works as a whole, George, for those who haven't tuned in so far?
Yep, so like you mentioned, there are 6 teams and there are 6 places. Teams that score in the top 4 will go through to the playoffs. To get into the top 4, you must win games to gain points. If you get 2 wins, you will gain 3 points. And if you win 1 game, it will be a draw, so each team will get 1 point. This just limits draws. So it's more distinct who gets into the playoff phase. Once in the playoff phase, teams will play against each other, and then they will go into the finals, and then there will also be a 3rd place game. And then at the very end of the tournament, we will have a very fun 5v5 Aram Mayhem.
Absolutely. So always capping things off with the fun games like we did in our previous Teamfight Tactics series, weeks 9 and 10 were for fun games. In this League of Legends series, week 10 is going to be the for fun games as well. As you mentioned, that 5v5 ARAM. So definitely, I think people are starting to get their bearings as well with the format. Obviously, 2v2 ARAM Mayhem is a very, very unique format. This is
Yeah.
usually a 5v5 game mode in regular League of Legends, so playstyles are very different, of course. So for those obviously unfamiliar with the format, which I think a good few people are going to be, sort of what's the keys to success here in this format that the likes of Team Ultimus and Yowie Addicts have found so far?
Well, unfortunately for Aram Mayhem, it is a little bit, unpredictable. but I think we're going into the game.
So about to find out.
Yeah, we are about to find out. But yeah, Aram Mayhem can be a little bit unpredictable. However, knowing when to eliminate yourself to cash out on the money you have is pretty useful. But as we saw last week, CL9 were really good at knowing when to force those backs and when to not, giving them a little bit of an advantage. Bit of a tongue twister there when it came to fights.
Definitely, and as you see, we've gone into the game at the moment. Immediately, things kicking off between, excuse me, between Pasta Lover and Cloudy. So it is Sveti Vijesny in the blue and Seal9 in the red here. Pasta Lover and Coco Slayer make up Team Blue, with Steph and Cloudy being the combatants for Seal9. And already big damage done for both sides here. Steph and Pasta Lover both down to about 50% HP. Coco Slayer just trying to get some chip damage on Cloudy, not successful at this time. Steph, though, put to sleep, finds himself on about 10% HP, so immediately lots of damage being done from both sides as we sit right by red team's first turret. But just before we get into proceedings, although these guys are wasting absolutely no time, just quickly, what champions are we seeing on the field right now, and does that change the dynamic of this first match here?
Yes. Lots of fighting going on already, apologies. As we saw, literally, as soon as those minions spawned, Pasta Lover going in on Cloudy. It's Steph, unfortunately, getting poked by that Zoe, as we saw last week. Lots of range, lots of burst damage. Coco Slayer on that Zoe. Pasta Lover on Yone, a very duelish skirmisher champion. So definitely going to be someone that wants to be going in. Cloudy on Ari, again, another champion that we saw last week. Didn't do very well, however, Cloudy a lot more experienced on Ari, so definitely going to know what to do on her to, utilize her a bit more. And Steph on Elise here, a burst assassin who, like Nidalee from last week, can transform to turn into a spider, and gives her some new abilities. Coco Slayer hitting a sleep on Cloudy, doing a big chunk of their health, but just missing Steph.
See now, Cloudy sent into the air, and that is first blood, and that is going to be Seal9 taking down Pasta Lover there. And how immediately now they start to gang up on Coco Slayer, chasing them all the way down. Now charmed and now locked into a fight, and it is going to be a clean sweep ace for Seal9 to start things off. So they're going to be leading 2-0 on the kill board.
Yeah, Pasta Lover jumping in, trying to get on Cloudy and Steph, but unfortunately getting CC'd just under the turret, being unable to get that third Q off to do that damage. And then the Zoe getting rushed down, charmed in that bush, unable to find that escape. And as we just saw, Steph getting the execute. Actually, no, didn't get executed, my bad. Giving Coco Slayer 2 kills on both Cloudy and Steph.
Yeah, absolutely. So now things are all even, 2 kills apiece here. Of course, that does mean now that everyone has been eliminated at least once, they were able to cash out on some of the econ that they've accrued in this opening phase here. With those minions, of course, that you see fighting in the middle of the map here. Still yet for either team to make any big dents in the other team's territory here. Both first turrets still in pretty good condition. Some small damage done to Seal9's first turret. But now some more fighting going on as some big CC there from Steph. Unable to do anything with it. Coco Slayer down to 50 here. Now Pasta Lover stuck between Steph and Cloudy. Does some big damage to both of them, but takes a lot of damage himself for his troubles there. And Coco Slayer and Pasta Lover now severely wounded here at a big health disadvantage. But Cloudy and Steph both being very measured in how they approach this fight. They're not quite jumping in too early here, not being too hasty.
Yeah, unfortunately for Pasta Lover there, went in but got charmed immediately. Steph hitting that snowball, going in, catching that Pasta Lover off guard. The Coco Slayer trying to get that sleep on Cloudy, but just missing the Q. And she's gonna back off.
And it is now 3-2 to Seal9 on the kill board. Pasta Lover, pardon me, will be entering the fray again momentarily when they respawn. But right now, objective is to start doing some damage to that first turret as Cloudy does take down Coco Slayer. Pasta Lover does now respawn, and Coco Slayer does get the pick on Cloudy. It's 4-3 now. Still to Seal 9 here, but Steph on his ones gets caught for all here now, and Seal 9, pardon me, unable to do any damage to that blue turret, which puts Flowers and Autumn at something of an advantage here. Pasta Lover leading the charge here towards that first turret. It's going to tear through those minions and potentially start doing some damage to that turret. Cloudy, though, jumping in to stop that advance.
Yeah, an incredible chase from Pasta Lover there. I believe that is the Summoner Spell Blade Waltz that from the Augment. Just makes him untargetable and does a lot of damage. But yeah, as we saw, Pasta Lover going all the way across the map to get Steph, and it worked out. Steph unable to get the execute, and Pasta Lover getting a kill. Like you mentioned, Pasta Lover making that advance, unable to get some turret damage, but they are doing well.
They do have a slight advantage in turret damage. As you can see, there are minions doing some slight chip damage to that first turret as we tick towards 7 minutes complete here. And this game has not been devoid of action by any means, 4-all on the kill board. To the point the turrets haven't really been the focus of this game. Steph with some huge damage to Pasta Lover there, as Pasta Lover did briefly go unstoppable, but turns out he was very stoppable in that particular moment there. Steph putting pay to that advance. Coco Slayer, though, still on full health. Pasta Lover retreating to get themselves some healing here. Steph and Cloudy in no such situation. They find themselves sufficiently healed at the moment. Landing a sleep, though, on Steph could put an advantage here, potentially for Blue Team. An opportunity to advance here, but they don't take it at the moment, being very measured. Another sleep landed, though, on Steph. It's going to be immobilized for a few seconds, and that's going to be huge damage, but can't quite get any picks to go along with it. Meanwhile, the minions fighting, so no turret damage being done at the moment. Pasta Lover and Coco Slayer getting some really good dives in on Seal 9, but unable to quite finish the job.
Yeah. Excuse me. Zoe getting those sleeps on the Elise. However, Elise spider form allows her to go untargetable. So when you see that really big zone and her just flying off the map, she can't be hit anymore, which allows her to, as we just see there, to jump on that Pasta Lover. But Pasta Lover ulting, blade vaulting, and just getting that pick on Cloudy, surviving just long enough to avoid that turret as well. Incredible engage from Pasta Lover. But like I was saying, Elise being able to dodge a lot of damage with her Spider Form E is going to prove very useful in a team that does high burst damage.
Yeah, a big Yone ult there from Pasta Lover to stay alive in that fight. Now Steph on one and put to sleep, but no way of taking him out, and now he is taken down. 6-4 on the kill board, and Flowers in Autumn do destroy Seal 9's first turret. Excuse me. So it is advantage Flowers in Autumn now. Cloudy immediately jumping on, but put to sleep immediately. And that is a massive play there from Flowers in Autumn. They take out Cloudy. Despite being on such low HP, Cloudy does get a revenge pick on Pasta Lover there. But that is a huge play to be able to win that fight on such low HP with Cloudy diving in like that. Steph, though, as Elise, will join the fray, and Coco Slayer forced to retreat here. Steph will give chase. Pasta Lover, of course, nowhere to be seen, having been taken out by Cloudy. But Steph has to put pay to that advance for the minute. So it's 7-5 to Flowers in Autumn, and they find themselves with that first turret destroyed.
Yeah, an incredible engage from Sveti Vijayasenyi there, catching that Cloudy just as they came back, costing Pasta Lover their life. However, because of that minion wave being pushed up and Steph not being back, they were able to do a little bit of turret damage, but also allowing Pasta Lover to get that reset, get that recall, get those items before they were able to push back, which is going to give them somewhat of an advantage in their upcoming fights.
Definitely, you see there at the top of the screen, they've got about a 1,500 gold differential over Seal 9. So should they fall again, they have just that little bit more econ to play with to purchase the items, the augments that they need, just to sort of maximize what their specific heroes can do here. Still, though, things, the pendulum sort of swinging the momentum towards Seal9 here as they're putting pay to Flowers and Autumn's advancer a little bit. Now Charmed is Coco Slayer and on 1 HP, but Pastelova does get a huge pick on Cloudy. So 2v1. They do get a shutdown, do Seal9, but a double kill for Pastelova and a huge team wipe there for Flowers in Autumn means that Pastelova is now free to advance on that second red turret. It's now 9-6 to Flowers in Autumn.
Yeah, an incredible dodge at the start from Steph there, dodging that Yone ult. However, Yone still has a lot of damage past his ult. I believe Ari got slept in that fight and Yone was just able to take him out. And despite Zoe walking away, Steph was just able to get that auto attack. But Pastelova able to catch that Steph while he was walking up. Pastelova getting charmed here, getting taken out by Steph, going to ensure the safety of that inhibitor. And Cloudy there popping a little Zonya's hourglass for the cheek of it, I suppose.
Definitely. Pastelova never going to win that 2v1, but I think doing it for the recall potentially to get back there. Obviously 20,000 gold now to their name. Flowers and Autumn have done brilliantly on the econ side of things. Coco Slay being very passive right now, waiting for their partner to rejoin the fray, which has allowed Steph and Cloudy to make advances on blue team's first turret, but of course it is 2-0 as well to Flowers in Autumn with regards to the turrets. But now Steph and Cloudy making some big work on that first turret. Down like a deck of cards, getting blown over there. 2-1 now. Potentially a comeback here. The momentum really swinging now. So 2v1. Pastelova jumping in the middle of it, trying to do some quick damage. Steph, though, does get wounded quite a bit, down to about 40%. And Cloudy and Steph do retreat there. Is now trying to take out the minion wave of Pastelova and Coco Slayer to make an advance of their own. They do still hold the advantage, but the momentum swinging the way of red team, you'd have to say.
Yeah, and another incredible dash away from the Yone ult there from Cloudy. This Yone is just not allowed to hit those ults. However, had that third Q ready, so was able to continue advancing on them. Gonna engage here, but gets charmed, unable to get the rest of the damage off. But Steph getting slept, but also spider form Eing as Elise. So gonna avoid that follow-up from the Zoe, ensuring his safety for now.
Definitely Steph making brilliant use of that transformation ability, but now Cloudy sent airborne, completely helpless in that 2v1. Now Pastelova jumping on Elise there. Steph forced to retreat there in spider form. It's 10-7 on the kill board, and that is going to be another team wipe. It's 11-7, and now that inhibitor vulnerable. And while it can respawn, given enough time, right now, that first inhibitor going down is a massive blow to Seal9's chances. We're not even 15 minutes into this game, and now Nexuses and turret are beginning to get destroyed here. There's one turret down by the Nexus. Of course, if they get that Nexus destroyed, that is game, set, and match. A second turret destroyed, and some chip damage to the Nexus as well. This could be one of the last fights of the game here. Still holding strong are Flowers and Autumn. Pastelova full health with some big damage to Cloudy. With a stun, put to sleep is Steph, and that is going to do just enough damage to win the game for Flowers and Autumn. They go up 1-0 in the first best of 2 in game 1.
Yeah, I don't even know if we can call that a champion diff, that game, as they were pretty evenly balanced. Elise is a little bit more of a bursty champion. However, in her spider form, she can be a bit skirmishy, but Yone just out-skirmishing them, I guess. He just has that more consistent damage, going to be able to fight for a little bit longer, and was also just a little bit tankier, so Ari wasn't able to burst him down quick enough, but also that incredible poke from the Zoe, who I believe had the augment that when she ults, she resets her cooldowns, so she was able to just get sleep after sleep in quick succession. And although the Elise has that dodge, the cooldown is a lot longer than the Zoe E, unfortunately, due to how strong of an ability he is. But a well-played game from both teams.
Definitely. Obviously, looking at the stats, you'd have to say it was somewhat all Flowers and Autumn there. It was 11-7 on the kill board, and if you take the turrets and inhibitors and whatnot into account, it was 6-1 to Sveti Vyzhestiny. So, you know, in such a gulf in scoreboard there, what was the difference maker potentially for Flowers and Autumn? Because it seemed almost like at some points it was too easy for them.
Yeah, definitely some incredible engages from that Yone. However, I believe the very first fight, it was the Yone that got picked off. So I'm not entirely sure what went wrong. Maybe just needing a warm-up game from Seal 9. Hopefully they'll get some more champions that they're more familiar with in the next game. But yeah, I think the Zoe and the Yone just had a little bit more synergy than the Elise Ari. Again, like we mentioned last week, that double mage comp, offering for a little bit more of an item choice for the enemy team. Going to be able to build more magic resist, which may have made that Yone more tanky. But unfortunately, I didn't see those items, so not 100% sure. But maybe just a warm up game.
Maybe just a warm-up game. I would say they've had it though, definitely. Something of a trouncing, I would say personally. Just looking at the numbers, you see a lot of very close fought games. There's 1 or 2 kills in it, sort of 2-0, 2-2, 4-2, 4-4. But
Yeah.
eventually, the gulf it grew too big, and they got inhibitor after inhibitor and the turrets. And I think eventually, Seal9 just sort of lost confidence. I think in the end, there sort of
Yeah.
became something of a lost cause.
Yeah.
And I don't think there was much they could do to resist. But do we potentially see a sweep here from Flowers in Autumn, or can Seal9 come back and rescue a draw from this?
I would love to see Flowers in Autumn get a double win. As in the last season, they didn't do too well, so it would be great to see them come up. And again, they are in tied 5th and 6th place at the moment, so getting a double win will bring them all the way up. As this is only their second game, so it would be pretty cool to see that.
I can say at the moment, as things run, if Sveti Vyzhesny are able to finish the deal and get a 2-0 win, they'll put themselves third in the league phase standings, just behind Team Ultimus and Yowie Alex, with just 2 games played there. That'll put them well above the elimination line and put one of Seal9 or Grumpy's down in it, of course, depending on other results. So the pendulum could really swing either way here. Things remaining to be seen. But what do Seal9 have to do to claw back this draw? Of course, it's very much easier said than done with the
Yeah.
quality that Flowers and Autumn really showed there in that first game. Really showing what they can do. As you mentioned in TFT, sort of Coco Slayer and Pastel Love, obviously that was a 1v1
Yeah.
format, but they definitely, I don't think, put in the performances I think they wanted to. But this is going to be a big confidence booster for them, and a bit of a confidence hit for Seal9. But what do they have to do now? Obviously, going back to the drawing board a bit, I think after something of a warm-up game that would have been
Yeah.
to get a draw out of it and keep themselves alive.
Well, going back to confidence, it really seemed like Flowers and Autumn were very confident this game. They really trusted themselves to go in. They were really looking for them engages, and there was lots of follow up on those engages as well. Maybe the Seal 9 could do with a little bit more of that confidence as well. That might be able to push them forwards a little bit more. But yeah, I hope their confidence doesn't get hit too much. Again, they're great players. Hopefully, they just get a little bit lucky with their champions and augments.
We saw them being very capable in the first game, and we're about to jump in just a few moments' time into match number 2. We saw Flowers and Autumn putting themselves very much on the front foot in match number 1. We'll see if they can replicate that in match number 2. We are jumping in right now for match number 2 of game 1 in week 3, and as you can see, it's still the same colours as before. Sveti Vyzhesny in the blue, and we are focused here on Seal9 in the red. That's Steph and Cloudy. Of course, things being very, very, very passive for the moment. All the scores set back to 0, and no one advancing just yet. The first minion waves now. So while we've got some downtime, what champions are we seeing on the screen, George, and what could we be expecting?
Well, first of all, I would like to mention the Coco Slayer Pastel Lover picks on Brand and Xerath. Both AB champions. However, if I saw this team comp, I would start crying. Brand and Xerath are known for their range and consistent poke damage. As you can see there, Coco Slayer on the Xerath and Pastel Lover on the Brand. Coco Slayer are going to be hitting from miles away, and Pastel Lover with lots of burst and damage over time. However, Steph here on Karma going to be able to negate some of that Coco Slayer damage, as Karma is sort of like a mix between an enchanter and a mage. She can do lots of healing and lots of shielding, especially on herself, but she can also output lots of damage. But Cloudy here on Caitlyn, you might recognize her from Arcane if you've seen the show. As you can see, they're getting shielded from that Xerath Q. But yeah, Caitlyn, an ADC, going to be doing lots of AD damage. Yeah, very consistent, lots of damage. I would say this is a pretty fair game.
We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, so not a lot of champ diff, we don't think. So this could be potentially all skill. We'll have to wait and see. Lots of range engagements we've seen. Obviously, you mentioned the poke damage that Svetiv and Destiny have, but they have fallen to the first blood here from Cloudy, as Caitlyn here and Coco Slayer now in a 2v1 here. Unable, I think, really to do much about it right now. Does land a stun, but I think that might be futile at the minute, as they're really tracking towards potentially going 2-0 down on the kill wall. Pastelova though does re-enter the fray, and Steph and Cloudy are low, so they will have to retreat. But I think that's a crucial first blood though. Just a bit of a confidence booster there for Seal9, of course, though. Pastelova able to go and grab some items right off the bat here. But Seal9 putting themselves immediately a bit more on the front foot than they did in that first match.
Yeah, definitely. An incredible engage from Cloudy there, recognizing that that brand was low and then flash E-ing to get that headshot on Caitlyn. But like I mentioned, that Karma just being able to shield Cloudy, sustaining them, negating that damage from Xerath, it's going to do a lot, and it's going to mean they're going to be able to stay in lane longer and negate that poke from that very poke-heavy team.
Definitely, I think negating, that long-range damage, one of their probably biggest strengths here. I think that's going to be definitely crucial to just suppressing their advances here. We'll have to wait and see how effectively they can do that, but for the moment, something of a downtime there. Steph, though, does land a big hit there on Pastelova, takes them down to about 50% HP. That is about roughly where everyone sits at the moment, so I think that's creating something of a tentativeness. No one really wanting to engage. They're not all on the best health. Coco Slayer now getting picked again. Rooted now is Pastelova. That's going to immobilize them. Pastelova taking out Steph. Cloudy taking out Pastelova. Put Seal9 2-1 up here inside blue territory here. But Cloudy getting some chip damage from the minion wave here. Both him and Pastelova very, very low on HP. So potentially not looking to engage at the minute, but shut down now is Cloudy against Coco Slayer. So it's 2-all on the kill board, and that turret damage should slow down massively, as blue team's first turret is down to about 50% HP here. And with Pastelova back in the game, Coco Slayer and Pastelova as Flowers and Autumn now looking to advance into red territory, but Steph now in waiting.
Yeah, not a bad double elimination for Seal9, to be fair, as it allowed them to back while their minion wave had crashed into the enemy turret. A good, well, not a horrible elimination for Coco Slayer either, as again, waves being pushed into the enemy turret, so that's going to allow them a lot of time to come back and hopefully negate a lot of that turret damage. But Cloudy and Steph crashing the wave into the turret here, which could lead to a lot of damage. But they are going to take the turret.
And it is 1-0 on the turrets for Seal9. So they are putting themselves massively on the front foot here to potentially rescue a draw from this game. Flowers in Autumn 3-2 down on the kill board as well. Finding themselves, in a lot of 2v1s that really aren't possible to win. And once they're both out of the game, their turrets are, of course, super vulnerable. Landing some CC, though, on Steph, not once but twice, down to about 50% HP and some more chip damage as well. But a big pick from Cloudy. Cloudy getting all the long-range picks in both of these matches. Potent as ever he's been here. Stunned again is Steph, so Flowers and Awesome really good on the CC here, but not quite able to capitalize. Coco Slayer, though, sniping Steph from miles away with a massive pick there that's really going to suppress Red Team's advance here, and potentially a double kill for Coco Slayer to rescue Flowers and Autumn here. Cloudy on one, and the ace is complete there for all, and now momentum could really well be swinging towards Flowers and Autumn. All they need to do, take out this minion wave, and the turret's there for the taking.
Yeah, some really devious aim from Coco Slayer there. Just absolutely sniping Steph, like you mentioned, made me giggle just a little bit. And then getting Cloudy from that range as well. Gonna give them chance to push. However, Cloudy and Steph will be on their way back to sort of push back on this advance. So they won't be able to capitalize too much on this double kill. But it's definitely going to be a lot for that Xerath to get that damage, as we saw, doing quite a bit of poke damage already. Like, just getting 1 or 2 of those Qs off is going to do about a quarter or a third of their health. So they're going to have to be a little bit more wary of where those Xerath Qs are going. However, fortunately, like we mentioned earlier, Cloudy and Steph do have pretty good range themselves. Caitlyn being one of the highest range characters in the game for an ADC, but gonna get outranged slightly by the Xerath and the Brand. So gonna need those tippy toes.
Gonna need those tippy toes, indeed, that nimbleness to also dodge the snipers that Coco Slayer is chucking out, of course. Steph getting, I think, slimed out is probably the only appropriate term, I think, really.
Slime.
Absolutely slimed out. But Steph, I think, undeterred at the moment, still 4-all. And Sealman, of course, do have the advantage of having taken out Flowers and Autumn's first turret. And, of course, that's not going to be respawning anytime soon. Of course, their second turret remains untouched, but now a big advance here, led by Steph, forcing Pastalover and Coco Slayer to retreat, and they may well start working on that second turret here, but some decent damage from Flowers and Autumn. It's just going to force a retreat here. They're going to back away, just throwing some long-range shots their way. Trying to take up the minion wave as well. Just trying to swing the momentum the other way. And this particular engage, I think, has become something of a stalemate here. Neither team able really to break through at the minute.
Yeah, Steph there with Grandma's chili oil, gonna offer a lot of additional sustain and damage. Basically what it does is it applies burn, but also any additional burn that you apply, it drops that little red circle that you see, which damages enemies but heals allies. So again, gonna offer a lot more sustain, even though she already sustains a lot, which is gonna give Steph and Cloudy a little bit of an advantage, as it means they will be able to survive those team fights a lot longer. Steph up here going for that poke on Pastalover. The burn damage almost getting them there, but did not get kirked. Oh, did get kirked. Oh my god. The firecrackers there from the Caitlyn ult, just bouncing onto the Pastalover, but even though the Xerath took that ult.
Absolutely. It's now 5-4 to Seal 9 here. 2v1 against Coco Slayer. You have to say that second turret is looking somewhat vulnerable at the moment here. Coco Slayer just trying to stall time for another 5 seconds until Pastalover is back in the game. But now forced behind the turret. It's going to bring said turret down to well below 50 HP, potentially in range to be taken out. But Pastalover does now join the fray, forcing the retreat there from Cloudy and Steph. And that is going to be a big engage there from Pastalover. Now taking out the minion wave, trying to swing momentum the other way here. Trying to get some healing, though, are Seal 9 here. But they have been forced back all the way to their own first turret, which now in itself is vulnerable. They do have a minion wave, though, coming to help. And now stunned is Steph, but Cloudy able to take out Pastalover, and they just about both survive on 1 HP. Pastalover, though, does snipe out Pastalover. Pastalover did not just snipe Pastalover. Sniped Steph and Cloudy, excuse me. 6-all now on the kill board. Coco Slayer, the lone fighter now. Going to start working on that first turret to really even things up here. That first minion wave, not going to be much of a deterrent here. And it is now 1-all, absolutely all even here in this game. Coco Slayer is going to get a self-elim on that turret. Does get a little bit of chip damage. And for the next 30 seconds, Flowers and Autumn aren't going to be very active as they wait for Coco Slayer to respawn. But Cloudy and Steph are both still in the fight. They respawn by that second turret. And we'll wait and see how these next engages go. It's all tied up.
Yeah, for a moment there, I really thought they were going to survive that brand burn. They were sat in that chili oil, and then they got that Karma old shield. So I really thought they were going to survive, but then just getting popped by the burn. Steph here engaging on Pastelava, going to land that root and get a lot of damage off, but only enough to wow. Cloudy finishing them off, like going from half health to no health in almost instantly, actually, which is going to allow them to really push this wave and get that second turret.
47 cruise missiles from Cloudy there on Pastelava, and it is going to make the score 7-6, and the blue turret is now destroyed. Seal 9 showing them how it's done here. 7-6 now on the kill board, 2-1 on the turrets. Cloudy and Steph doing the business. Now, Coco Slayer will soon have Pastelava in support, but Cloudy destroys the inhibitor as well, so it's going to be 3-1 essentially on the turrets here. So that is a huge inhibitor destroyer there for Seal 9 here to try and rescue a draw here. And they're both on a good amount of health here. Their econ looks strong as well, and they're 7-6 up on the kill board. They're looking a lot more confident this round.
Yeah, I love that 7-6, especially as we can't say the real thing. Oh, there we go.
There we go. As
there
if
we go.
by
I
magic.
was just going to say.
I saw it and I was like, I'm going to say it in the other way.
Oh, the one person we can't say it around. Otherwise, we get absolutely taunted. But yeah, I knew it was coming.
This is beyond beating a dead horse.
This is...
The horse is decayed.
This is on delay as well. So it's like they knew. Brand taking out Cloudy there. Gonna lots of firecrackers as well. But a lot of Brand damage. Brand really coming online. Coco Slayer just unable to take Steph out because Steph has a lot of that sustain. But yeah.
So 7-8 now is the score in favor of Seal 9, but
Thank
both
goodness.
those, thank goodness. Good job on those picks. Could well be 7-9. Coco Slayer on one here, and Pastelava nowhere to be seen. Cloudy, though, with a similar story here. So Steph may well be forced to retreat now that Pastelava has respawned, and he is still, though, is vulnerable here. I think trying to stick it out, but not the best idea. Coco Slayer with the rooftop sniper from spawn. It is 8-all here in this final match of this best of 2. And momentum potentially swinging the other way now. It's a 2v1 for the next 20 seconds. Cloudy advancing all on his lonesome here. Meanwhile, Pastelava and Coco Slayer, partners in crime in the real world and in this game with a minion wave in tow. I think this may be a good opportunity for them to start taking back a couple of those turrets, as they're currently 3-1 down with their inhibitor destroyed, as well as their second turret. Although time is on their side, it probably won't be too long now. With neither of the turrets around their nexus destroyed, their inhibitor will respawn should they be able to wait it out for enough time, which will give them a big opportunity to potentially take back an aspect of this game. But right now, Cloudy and Steph with some really good sustain, stopping their advance pretty much dead in its tracks at the 15-minute mark. And it's pretty much fairly even at the minute, 8 kills each.
Yeah, despite the inhibitor being down, like you mentioned, the inhibitor will come back up. And when it does, that will definitely slow Steph and Cloudy down. But yeah, despite having all that sustain, the burn from Brand and the constant range damage from the Xerath, it's starting to overpower them just a little bit. So that's gonna, that's definitely gonna offer some resistance against Steph and Cloudy. But I think my money is still on Steph and Cloudy for this game.
Steph and Cloudy really putting themselves on the front foot this time, although Steph now getting CC down to half here, has to deploy some healing. Coco Slayer again with that channeling, almost like a warning sign that a big beam of pain is about to come your way. Managing to dodge it that time though, Pastelava and Coco Slayer not being deterred this time, pushing Seal 9 all the way back to that second turret. But of course, I think this is becoming more of a waiting game now. I think we are mere seconds away from that blue inhibitor coming back, and Steph and Cloudy's work being rather undone in that regard. Still, though, one turret up and an inhibitor up at the moment, so still advantage Seal 9. with respect to the turrets. It's been a couple minutes since we've seen either of these teams get a kill, though. It's been something of a stalemate. And as if on cue, the blue inhibitor does respawn, so now just 2-1 on the turrets. So some more CC there from Flowers in Autumn, and they're starting to get pushed back here a bit by Seal9. They want that inhibitor gone again. They're really starting to advance against blue territory here. But Steph, though, quite low, might force a retreat here.
Yeah, Steph definitely going in on Pastelova there. Tried to get that route and almost did, but Pastelova just flashing away before it could connect fully. And Steph taking a little bit of damage. Cloudy looking for some poke on Coco Slayer, but gonna get CC'd on the process. Xerath ulting for that rooftop sniper like you mentioned earlier. Steph just unable to dodge it, which is gonna take them out, but Cloudy's still alive to stop the wave from pushing.
So that is going to put Flowers in Autumn 9-8 up on the kill board. So definitely not down and out yet. They're proving themselves to be potent engagers at this point. And they're not giving up. They definitely had a couple of setbacks in the sort of middle part of this game when they lost an inhibitor and an extra turret. And of course, they are still 2-1 down on the turrets here. But they are starting to really push back now into red territory. Potentially, this could even things up right now. Some CC on Cloudy, down to half, down to a quarter. Potentially going to get taken out. It is 10-8 with an ace for blue team. The minion wave is going to push them back, but potentially not for much longer. And that is going to leave their second turret massively vulnerable here. We'll wait to see when they start working on it. Steph, though, is there in tow to try and stave off this advance, but I fear it may be futile as a second red turret now does go down, and they're going to start immediately getting to work on taking out that inhibitor, but they are vulnerable. Coco Slayer especially on low health. Pastelova just above half, but that inhibitor is going to go down in a matter of seconds, and now Sveta Vyshesny taking the lead of this game, taking it by the scruff of the neck. They're 10-8 up on the kills, and now they're 3-2 up on the turrets.
Yeah, both Steph and Cloudy here with Kanek Rukun, an item that we are a little bit familiar with on this channel, on this series. Yeah, gonna offer that massive magic resist shield, which is gonna give them a lot of survivability against Sveti Vyshesny. But also the shield is gonna negate a lot of that poke damage, especially as it comes off cooldown pretty quickly. But Kanek Rukun also offers a lot of health and magic resist, so gonna limit the damage of Coco Slayer and Pastelova by quite the margin. Cloudy going in here, jumping on Coco Slayer, halving their health, but Brand, the engage from Brand, futile as the Karma Shield, and Kanek Rukun just absolutely negating all of the damage. And Caitlyn there healing back up from that Bloodthirster. This could be the end.
It could well be the end. Cloudy with those huge 47 cruise missiles once again here. Takes down the inhibitor, takes down the first turret around the Nexus. Seal9 are going to rescue a draw here unless things go very, very wrong. In the next 10 seconds, the second turret is down. The Nexus is down. And with a 10-all draw on the kill board, they're going to take out that Nexus. And it is going to be a 1-all draw between Seal9 and Flowers in Autumn for a third draw in a row in this Hive Esports League of Legends series here. Game 1 of Week 3 ends in a draw between Seal9 and Flowers in Autumn. Flowers in Autumn, though, are now on the scoreboard with their first points of the series. Seal9 are now going to be on 2. And I think that just proves, George, just how close the talent and skill in this series is.
Yeah, especially in Aram Mayhem. Aram Mayhem a little bit more difficult than regular ARAMs due to the more RNG nature of it. But yeah, some good gameplay from both teams. Again, very dynamic backwards and forwards. But yeah, excited for match 2.
Definitely, of course. Match 2, game 2 is going to be Nat and Joe, who currently sit at the foot of the leaderboard, trying to fight elimination here against debutants Grand Prix, who secured themselves a 1-all draw in their first match against the current league leaders, Team Ultimus. So they have proven themselves to be a strong outfit in their own right. So that in itself will be a good game to watch. Nat and Joe looking for revenge, fighting elimination. Grand Prix with a point to prove and already having proven themselves to be very, very strong. So
Yeah.
we'll have obviously to wait and see for a few minutes until we jump into that match. In the meantime, everyone at Hive is going to go on a little bit of a break just for a few minutes, but we'll be back very shortly with Game 2, Nat and Joe versus Grumpy's right here on twitch.tv/Hive Esports Games. Don't go anywhere. Tries to land a couple long range blows, but nothing going there. And now now very low health and first blood
Going back in, but finishing
tandem to push back here. heroes, but nothing going there. And now, Seal might take the lead. Yeah, we have a 2v1 out very low health, and first blood does
Going back in, but pushing away.
tandem to push back here. If they can now And welcome back, everyone, to twitch.tv/Hive Esports Games. It's time for Game 2 of Week 3 of the Hive Esports League of Legends series. If you're just tuning in, we just witnessed a thrilling 1-1 draw between Seal9 and Sveti Destiny, also known as Flowers in Autumn. A real end-to-end game where both teams felt like they could take it at any one time, and rather fittingly, it ends in a draw after a best of 2. So both of those teams will claim 1 point towards their league phase points total as we now near the halfway point in the league phase, where we find out which 4 teams will advance to the semi-final. 2 of those teams looking to advance to the semi-final are Nat and Joe and Grompies. They will be taking part in game number 2. So, initial expectations for this match, George?
Yeah, well, Grumpy's first game, did they go 1-1 or did they sweep? I can't remember.
They had a 1-1 draw with Ultimus.
Okay, yes. So yeah, both of these teams currently are both looking to get out of the 5th and 6th place. So definitely gonna hope that they have a little bit of fire under them today. However, Grumpies are unavailable, so they are being subbed out. So we're not 100% sure how this one's gonna go. So could be more exciting, or they could be considerably better, and it could absolutely stomp Nat and Joe, bless their cottons. But yeah, I hope they're not as good as the original Grumpies. Just for the variation, just for the silly. Yeah.
Definitely. Still adds an element of uncertainty, an element of the unknown into this game. Of course, we obviously got to know the Grompies team a little bit, Impromptu and Kitsune Maison in their first game, but of course they're not going to be here tonight, so it's going to be another pair of debutantes playing
Yeah.
for Grompies. So it's a revolving door of new faces in the Grompies camp, and that's of course going to take Nat and Joe somewhat by surprise, because obviously they find themselves right in the heat of the elimination battle, so they are wanting to get themselves as much of an advantage as possible, and that includes doing their homework on Grumpy, see how they played against Ultimus, how they responded to the heroes that they were given, and that's all out the window now because it's completely different people. They don't know how they play unless they happen to know them outside of Hive, so that of course remains to be seen. And of course, the 2 debutants for Grompies will have the luxury of having seen Nat and Joe play back in week 1 against Team Ultimus. So
Yeah.
that they're going to have done their homework and find out how they play. So this could be a very interesting matchup. So with that in mind, of course, it's somewhat news to us that Grompies are coming in with debutantes. With Kitsune Maison and Impromptu being unavailable, does that potentially change our predictions going into this game?
Well, it definitely makes us a little bit more uncertain. However, Nat and Joe did do pretty well considering their matchup. We saw some incredible plays, but yeah, it does make it a little bit more unpredictable. But yeah, definitely gonna put debutantes as the Grompies title in their player cards, because that's what they've been the entire season and last season as well.
Yeah.
They debuted and then disappeared, and then they're debuting and now they're disappearing. Yeah, Watch Grumpy's be new debutants next week as
Newbie
well.
debutants. Two brand new faces
Oh god.
all the time. It would have been nice if all these new debutants, if they just made their own teams. Then we could have had a really
True.
big tournament.
True. Actually, true. Yeah. Where were they when we needed them? But yeah.
Oh well, still going to be an exciting matchup with just a couple minutes out from jumping into this second game. Of course, Grompies do find themselves sort of in a middling sort of situation at the minute. Find themselves on just 1 point at the moment, which puts them fifth in the league phase standings, which of course is below the elimination line. And of course, Nat and Joe with 0 points after these first 2 weeks. They only played in week 1 against Team Ultimus, did lose that fight. So they're still on 0 points. So this is 5th versus 6th. So this is a huge match in terms of the battle to get out of the elimination zone. Because of course, if you finish in the bottom 2 after week 6, you are absolutely it's gone. There's no way back. No losers bracket. That's it. So that is the nature of the 16 format. It is eventually just going to be 4. No losers bracket, no nothing. So this is a huge game in the halfway point of the season in the league phase. So we're going to jump in right now. Nat and Joe versus Grompies for game 2 of week 3 of the Hive Esports League of Legends series.
Yeah. So no losers queue. However, I'll get there. No losers queue. However, we do have that 5v5, so there will be chance for redemption. Just get me out.
Beatboxing.
Oh my god. I'm
Beatboxing.
spitting bars. I'm not. Oh my god. Oh, there, we're already getting flamed, but that's probably because of the Mel pick. As we know, Mel is the most toxic champion we've ever seen. But yeah, recently got some changes, but I think Mel could be a little bit of a devious pick. Mel on Kami on Mel there, and Nutova on the Morgana. Gonna be offering a lot of CC and lots of high damage for Nutova and Kami here. But Ratley and EJK, the Grompies, I'm just going to call them the Grompies. The Kalista getting caught off with that Morgana Q, going to allow Mel and Morgana to unload a lot of damage onto them. But yeah, Nico on the Ratley there, landing that root on the Kami, not expecting that Nico as the minion, but maybe going to get this kill on the Kalista. Kalista getting healed, so unable to get executed by the Mel. Kami getting poked down, but avoiding that Nico Q. Oh, Nutova almost hitting the Kalista there. The flash, but almost got killed by that snowball. That would have been an incredible play there.
And that is going to peter out that advance just a little bit. There's been a lot of chopping and changing and exchanging of blows, but no kills just yet. But that is going to potentially change on a dime here. So Nat and Joe, Nutsilver and Kami in the blue there. And the substitutes for Grompies in the red, EJK and Ratley. So 2 debutants to Hive Esports. And first blood does go to Team Red. It's going to be 2-0 to Grompies right off the bat. EJK and Ratley. EJK getting the first blood there. And they're going to start to attack that first turret with the help of their minion wave. And we're going to see just how much damage they can get done here. They're going to do about a quarter of that first turret's HP, but now as Kami and Nutsilver do respawn, they can use that clone as a buffer, but Ratley and EJK do have to retreat here. EJK seeking out some healings, going to put them up to half, and it's 2-0 immediately on the kill board, so it's a good start from Grompies right off the bat here.
Yeah, Grumpy's going to have that item advantage for now, but they're not looking for that self-execute, so they're going to give their gold to that Mel there, and possibly the Morgana as well. Nico staying behind, just dodging that Morgana Q, but getting hit by the snowball. No engage, but they will be able to push that wave and hopefully get some chip damage on that turret.
There's deceit 2-1 with Kami getting the pick there on EJK. Of course, that does give them the impetus to start making some purchases of their own. Ratley as well on very low HP. Blue team here, Nat and Joe, just trying to poke here at those 2 here CC immune though is EJK. That's going to help them advance. And Kami though does take out Rattley. Rooted now is EJK. And it's a swift double kill there. And it is going to immediately swing the momentum the other way here. Nat and Joe now take a 3-2 lead. And it is going off in the chat as well as they start to work on that first turret.
Chat clip that. Chat clip that. Oh my god, that was the goofiest play I've ever seen. Kalista pulling the Nico, but I think the Nico meant to ult before the Kalista ulted, so the Kalista could throw the Nico ult at them, but unfortunately it did not go as planned. Kalista threw that Nico into the turret, but Nico ulting late, but the Nico ult getting cancelled anyway from that Mel passive. Definitely an interesting play indeed, but one of the funniest we've seen on Hive Esports.
I didn't even clock that was a hilarious play. So we're going to pretend that we were dying laughing at that one.
I definitely was.
EJK takes out Newt Silver to make it 3 apiece, but of course Nat and Joe did manage to take out that first turret and put blue team on the front foot here. EJK now, unfortunately, tries to engage Kami. Kami, though, equal to it, and roots EJK there into a pick 4-3. Does have a HP disadvantage in this fight against Rattley here. Rattley may get the pick here with some healing as well. Newt Silver, though, will come in to support Kami with a well-timed shield there. Shut down, though. Rattley does get the pick on Kami there as Mel. So they're going to have to wait 15 seconds before they get paired up again. Newt Silver just in the left-hand of your screen entering the picture. But it's 4-0 on the kill board. Newt Silver and Kami have crucially taken out that first turret in red territory here. EJK and Rattley, though, do look very strong combat-wise here and could definitely get even on the turrets potentially within the next few seconds here if they play this engage well. Some good CC and immediately going to take out that turret. Just full focus on the turret, not worrying about either Newt Silver or Kami. And now jumping in to the fray is Rattley, rooting Kami as well, but Rattley on very low HP does get taken out by Kami now 2v1. EJK though does take out Kami, able to finish the job against Newt Silver. No! Oh! Turns it around against Newt Silver on 1 HP. A massive ace there from EJK there, and it's going to make that 6-5 for red team here, and that is a huge play there from Grompies.
Yeah, kind of insane that Kalista was so low, but just had enough of those spears to execute that Morgana, but making a comeback after that really flop play from earlier. But yeah, really well played from Newt Silver, but unfortunately those Kalista spears just stacked up and were able to get her a little bit before she could get EJK, and then EJK getting the heal, so the burn just not quite finishing them off.
And that is going to make it 6-5 to Grompies there with a massive pick there at the end for EJK on Newt Silver, surviving on a slither of health here. So still the advance is really sort of neutralizing now. Blue team sort of beginning to advance now with some big CC as well there. Both of them completely immobilized, and Kami gets the pick on a already low on health EJK. And now immediately CC'd again, double kill. 2v1, not really a hope in hell there for Rattley or EJK to get out of that one. It's 7-6 now to Nat and Joe, and they're going to start advancing deep into red territory here. They take out the minion wave, and that turret now is there for the taking. EJK now does respawn. Rattley still with a couple seconds on the clock. There goes EJK, immediately rooted and CC'd there, down to a third of HP already. CC immune, though, could save them there as Rattley comes into the fray here, and that turret still lives to see another day there on just below half health. So that is a good play to make themselves immune to CC when it seems like really Nat and Joe are sort of relying on that CC, immediately rooting the enemy right off the bat here in any engage. See again there, Rattley immobilized. Kami, though, does get the pick on EJK, who was low there, and Rattley in another 2v1 retreating here. And this second turret may be lost.
Yeah, some incredible roots here, especially when that Morgana revolves around those roots. So getting those roots are pretty good. As we saw earlier, that double root from Kami and Newt Silver just stun locking that Kalista, but unfortunately Kalista with that cleanse. But we have seen some really good like sniper routes from the Newt Silver. Just missing that EJK there, but to me that looked like it hit.
And now making some work, pardon me, on that inhibitor. They do just about get it destroyed with the minion wave as they were forced to retreat. Again, another big route there on EJK there. So now both them and Rattly with just 10 minutes, not even, on the clock here, find themselves 3-1 down with both turrets destroyed and the inhibitor as well taken out. Of course, that will respawn in a few minutes, unless, of course, Newt Silver and Kami can start taking out the turrets adjacent to the enemy nexus, which will put a big dent in Grumpy's hopes of winning this game here. Right now, it is all Nat and Joe. Red team pushed into a corner here. A big route there for Rasily, I believe that was, on Kami, immobilizing Kami here, but still the advance continues here. The minion wave as well looking particularly strong here for Nat and Joe, just forcing Red team to backpedal just a little bit here. Turrets firing off, but nobody home at the moment. And there's some really good poke damage, so stunned and now rooted. A big pick there for EJK on Newt Silver. It's now 2v1. Kami does get the root on the clone there, but of course that's not going to be good for any picks here, and it's going to be 20 seconds before Newt Silver's back in the game. So this blue team advance may have just been stopped in its tracks.
Yeah, Newt Silver there walking towards the Nico ult to stop it hitting Joe as well. Joe just getting a pick on the Kalista here. Unfortunately, Grompies won't be able to do much with this double kill due to that fully stacked wave and because of how pushed it is. Rattly here on pretty low health, so when Nat and Joe come back, they're going to be able to push pretty much immediately. But yeah, again, some pretty good routes and some pretty good engages from Nat and Joe here. Yeah.
So immediately entering back in the fray is Newt Silver, who we're focusing on now, getting deep into red territory. But EJK, pardon me, does respawn here now. It's a clean 2v2 now in this fight, 9-8 to Nat and Joe, and it's 3-1. But that red inhibitor, as you can see, is probably just a couple minutes away from respawning. So if they want to stop that from happening, Nat and Joe need to start working on those turrets by the Nexus, that clone advancing into blue territory, but nobody home there. Now trying to get some poke damage, particularly on Rattly, who finds themselves very, very low on HP at the moment. An immediate route there, and that is going to take out Rattly with a brilliant pick there from Newt Silver to make it 10-8. And it's now a 2v1. EJK backed into a corner, and Nat and Joe doing well to try and ensure that that red inhibitor does not respawn. Kami jumping now on EJK, and it could well be backed into a corner here. Rasily still 15 seconds away from respawning, and it is a team wipe there. 11-8 for Nat and Joe, and now they're going to start working on those turrets. May see a self-elim here if the turrets do enough damage here, but now immediately on spawn, Rasily down to just about half HP here. Newt Silver just working on those turrets, completely ignoring the PvP fight, and one turret is down, and it may well be quickly followed by a second turret, and it does now go down. All focused on the Nexus here for Nat and Joe to try and get their first match win of the series so far. It's 11-8 on the kill board. It's going to be, I think, 6-1 on the turrets here. A very convincing performance from Nat and Joe to kick off game 2. That was a brilliant performance and a far cry from their performance in week 1. This is a new team right here.
Yeah, they new teams. Yeah, they definitely played really well this game. They were hitting those routes and hitting those routes at really important times. As we saw just a second ago, not Mal, Nat hitting that route just as Nico ulted. Really unfortunate for the Nico there. But yeah, especially for Kalista, a champion that thrives on being able to move, getting rooted really limits her damage and really screws her over. So some incredible roots and some incredible gameplay.
That is definitely sort of what stood out to me. The CC from Nat and Joe was brilliant. Immobilizing Grompies at really, really crucial times when it seemed like sort of the team fight was lost or it would sort of swing momentum the other way at the end of it, but they got able to immobilize the Grompies players and eventually get the picks that sort of got them over the line because Grompies were no slouches. I mean, we saw a couple of those plays, like at the EJK surviving on one
Yeah.
to switch that fight against Morgana as it was. And that really turned the tides there and gave Grumpy some hope. But I think potentially it's sort of in that end game, once they got the inhibitor, that first turret near the Nexus down, I think it was pretty much lost from then on. But that was a brilliant, brilliant first game there from Nat and Joe. Could we see a sweep from Nat and Joe? I mean, that was a brilliant performance, and I think a much more confident performance.
Yeah.
I think enjoyed that a lot more than their game against Team Ultimus, sort of a very sort of revamped team. So I think potentially a sweep might be on the cards for these. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I would definitely love to see a sweep. Again, they played really well. So it'd be great to see them carry this on to the next game. And again, don't want it to go to waste. So definitely hoping for this confidence to keep going and, you know, keep fighting well against the Grompies. But I'm also kind of hoping that Grompies make those silly plays again, because again, that Callista throwing the Nico for the Nico to get killed by the turret, one of the funniest things I've seen in Hive Esports so far. So definitely looking forward to some goofy gameplay.
Not devoid of action or funny moments in this series so far. Of course, we're just at the halfway point, and of course we would be remiss to not talk about the point situation now at this point in the league phase. If Nat and Joe can complete the sweep, that is going to catapult them way up the leaderboard, of well clear of the elimination zone. Of course, as things stand, 3 points would put them third behind Seal 9 and Team Ultimus. So that would be a really, really big win for them. And would put, I think, Flowers in Autumn back down into the elimination zone alongside Grompies, if my math is correct off the top of my head. Of course, we will go behind the scenes later tonight to figure that out exactly. But that just shows how topsy-turvy it's been, because, I mean, Flowers in Autumn, we saw today, they're performing brilliantly and they could be put back in the elimination zone already. So really every point counts, and I think that's what these teams are beginning to realize with so few weeks and so few points really up for grabs, with only 3 for a win and 1 for a draw. I think we're starting to see the teams, I think, be a lot more aggressive and start to really try and find any means possible to get those points. I think they're starting to realizing just how valuable they are.
Yeah, definitely seeing a lot more confidence today. People probably just, getting their foot in the door, understanding where they're at, getting used to Aram Mayhem, because not everyone plays Aram Mayhem. But yeah, definitely a lot more confidence these games.
Definitely a lot more confident gameplay from these guys. And we are soon to be jumping in now, of course, into match 2 of game 2. This will be our final bit of action for the evening, so do stay dialed in, because it's match 2 between Nat and Joe versus Grompies. It's currently Nat and Joe that carry a 1-0 lead. We're going to jump into the game right now and see how the rest of this evening pans out. We head to the battlefield now, and as you can see, it's Newt, Silver and Kami, Team Nat and Joe in the blue EJK, and Rattley for Team Grompies. They'll be in the red. And with the seconds beginning to tick over, George, what champions are we seeing on the battlefield? What's your first impressions?
So for Nat and Joe, we have a Jinx and a Shaco. Again, Jinx from the hit show Arcane, if you've seen it. But yeah, we also have a Smolder and a Heimerdinger for the Grompies. Smolder also being a Jinx and Smolder both being ADC champions. However, Jinx has a lot more potential than Smolder, as Smolder takes a lot of time to scale up, as he is a infinite scaling champion. So naturally, he's going to be weaker in the early game. But Jinx, even just getting 1 kill on Jinx can like turn the game completely. As when Jinx get a kill, she gains so much attack speed and a lot of movement speed. So even if they're behind, Jinx 1 kill can turn the fight completely.
Definitely. It could be very topsy-turvy, pardon me, momentum-based with the champions that we're seeing on the battlefield here. And immediately the aggression, I think, just as high as it was in the first game. I think, especially with the pokes and the long range hits, seeing some more CC there. EJK rooted for just a short amount of time there, but nobody home to really capitalize on that. We already see some damage to blue territory here as that first turret down to about 80–90% here. Of course, that damage will stack over time if Nat and Joe keep opening the door for that long range poke. Of course, the minion wave as well, just doing tiny bits of chip damage as well. Another route there, but EJK responding in kind as well. So both EJK and Newt Silver down to about 50%, but now Kami could well be landing first blood on EJK and does. A huge first blood. Rattley responding with some CC on Kami. Can Kami win this fight on such low health? Rattley does take out Newt Silver, and that's going to really turn the tide here. Kami has to retreat on such low HP. It is going to be 1-1 here. Can Rattley get the team wipe here? Kami deploys the clone to try and distract somewhat here and try and do some subversive damage. Rattley needs to try and get some long range damage. Kami tries to engage, but to no avail. Grompies are going to go 2-1 up here after the first team fight.
Yeah, loving this like silly, goofy gameplay. Newt Silver trying to take out that turret, but the turret just slightly outranging her, so catching her off a little bit. Very goofy indeed. And then Joe trying to get behind the Heimerdinger with his Q, but unfortunately just misses getting behind Heimerdinger, so getting caught out by those rockets. Yeah, some very goofy gameplay, but I'm here for it. After some of the more not more serious games we've had, but some of the more, what do we call it, sweaty games.
Yeah, bit sweaty.
We love to see some Hive Esports whimsy spirit.
There we go.
The whimsy, bringing back the Hive Esports whimsy. Yeah, EJK trying to find and engage on Kami. Kami getting rooted by that Heimerdinger. Smolder using his ult for a little bit of healing, but gonna do a little bit of damage. Gonna fight Newt Silver here. Newt Silver getting snowballed, but Smolder going in for the engage, but Tara just doing too much damage. But yeah, the whimsy.
Yeah, Smolder jumping in there on Newt Silver, but between that, Newt Silver, of course, with some decent damage output, the turret as well. Kami jumping in. Having Newt Silver's back there, it's now 2 kills apiece here. Rattley somewhat vulnerable here, although the red minion wave looking particularly potent. That could well take out Newt Silver in their own right here. Is Newt Silver very low here, but Kami does shut down Rattley as Heimerdinger. So 3-2 now, 3-all as EJK gets a revenge pick on Newt Silver, and now EJK versus Kami here, and it looks to go the way of EJK with a crucial double kill to put Grompies back in front. It's 4-3.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot better for Smolder, as it is going to allow Smolder to get those scalings off here, but Joe and Newt Silver gonna be able to get that back, get them items. Champions that are gonna do a lot more with their items than the Smolder and Heimerdinger, as Shaco can completely bypass those Heimerdinger turrets. Jinx here with the upgraded Collector, which is going to give a little bit more damage and a lot more gold, so definitely going to come online a lot earlier. Joe here with the Rod of Ages going to be doing a lot of burst damage with that E and with those little boxes he's placing. So a lot of diverse damage here, so no Kinetic Rookins this game. But yeah.
Definitely interesting always to see sort of the purchases these guys are all making, of course, after they do get recalled. 6 minutes on the clock, though, and it does look like we may well see a first turret going down here. Red team with a very strong minion wave, and that blue turret looking particularly vulnerable, although Kami and Newt Silver now swooping in to protect, although, pardon me, that turret down to about 25% HP, and Newt Silver as well, particularly low on HP. Kami sends out a clone just to push back Grompies a little bit, and that could give them the breathing space they need, but that turret now on a slither of health. I think they're just going to need to poke it with some long-range damage, or even just a minion wave may well be able to take out that first turret and give Grompies the 1-0 lead on the turrets, and they do. So they now lead on the kill board and on the turrets. Kami makes it 4-0 on the kill board. Rattley in a 2v1 here, trying to flee, but to no avail. A swift team wipe there for Nat and Joe. Rattley, though, does respond with a pick beyond the grave, as it were. 5 all here, and Kami on very low HP. So Rattley and EJK will join the fray at an advantage in that regard. Essentially a 2v1 with how low Kami is on HP. And as if by magic, as if on cue, EJK swoops in right by that first turret and snipes Kami straight out of the air. 6-5 now in favor of Grompies.
Yeah, Joe looking for a execute there, but Smolder finding him first, unfortunately. But yeah, those turrets from Rattley, just a nuisance. That constant damage if you don't take them out, but constantly being able to put them up, creating a lot of pressure as it limits their ability to poke and push back from Nat and Joe here. But again, they have a lot of potential, but if the game goes on a little bit too long, that Smolder will scale up and might be a little bit more difficult to deal with.
And still, the 2v1s still going on here, as it's often just one player jumping in between. And it will be another ace for Grumpy, starting with Kami, ending with Newt Silver here. Rattley and EJK proving once again how potent they are in that PvP combat. And once they take out that minion wave, that second turret is there for the taking. 10 seconds before either of these two are going to have anyone to contend with in regards to respawning. And Rattley and EJK now just giving themselves, I think, a bit of a breather. Newt Silver and Kami will begin to re-advance, and they start to work on that turret. Kami the first to jump in immediately on EJK. Newt Silver with the pick there on EJK. Rattley on a killing spree here, does respond, but Newt Silver shuts down Rattley there. 9-7 now the kill score between Grompies and Nat and Joe. Now, one thing I couldn't help but notice, once Grompies had won that team fight against Nat and Joe, and both of them had their respawn counters on, there was no one else on the field. How come EJK and Rattley didn't do more damage to that second turret?
Potentially just the minion waves not lining up properly enough, or like you mentioned, just taking a breather, allowing this game to go on a little bit longer, so not going to complain. But as we saw in this fight a second ago, Jinx getting that one kill and just absolutely turning it. Being able to get the Smolder and then being able to chase down the Heimerdinger, leaving them on a 7-9, closing that gap a little bit in gold. As we can see here, some items have been bought. Smolder with the ult, but getting CC'd by those Shaco clones. Again, Newt Silver getting that kill, going to be able to give her a lot of attack speed, just doing so much damage. Again, getting that one kill is all they're going to need. So finding that pick from the Shaco, getting that fear, pushing them back into their team, but allowing them to do a lot of damage in the process, they're going to be able to take a lot of this turret.
Newt Silver there, and Jinx, as you mentioned, with a massive double kill there on both Smolder and Heimerdinger, and that's going to take that turret down at least to half HP. EJK now does respawn and will soon jump on this turret. You'd have to imagine there he is, and Rattley will soon respond in, so EJK immediately takes out Kami, and Newt Silver forced to retreat here, but a root there, still not enough to stop that Smolder. It is now 11-9 here to Grompies, as they now manage to save their own first turret and are now going to start to advance completely uninterrupted deep into blue territory here, with 6 seconds on the clock before Kami comes back. 10 seconds for Newt Silver. The blue second turret now below half here. Kami, you'd imagine, will be jumping in just a moment's time, but I think time's going to be against them here. And indeed, just about, that second turret is now destroyed. 2-1 here now on the turret count. EJK immediately taken out Newt Silver with a massive pick there. Can it be another double kill for Jinx? Yes, it will be. 11 picks apiece here with 11 minutes on the clock here. Grompies now still leading on the turrets. It's all even on the kill boards. And this game has not been shy at all or devoid of any action in the PvP regard. 11-11 is going to be one of the highest scoring individual matches we've seen all season. And now with neither Grumpy's player anywhere to be seen, that final red turret is there to be taken and the inhibitor now under attack.
Yeah, Joe making a great disengage there, but Nutova getting a kill again, Jinx getting a kill is going to just catapult them into like immense team fighting power. Not going to be able to take the Nexus turrets, but they are going to be able to hold off this wave for a little bit and potentially look for a couple picks with those Shaco boxes and with that little bit of Jinx poke. Again, like I keep mentioning, all they're going to need is that one pick, and they're pretty much set.
Definitely a massive, massive team fight win there, getting a turret and an inhibitor and immediately starting to work on those turrets as well. It all seems to be coming up now, and Joe for potentially their first win of the season here. Rattley and EJK held back by that clone. Nutsilver trying to get some poke. Red team trying to kill time, see if they can get that inhibitor to come back. Nutsilver missing the poke there. Rattley now down to half, immobilized as well, and Nutsilver with a massive, massive pick there. But now Rattley shuts down Nutsilver. Kami on one, EJK with a big pick there. So Grompies are going to take this team fight with a slither of health. Nutsilver was on something of a killing spree there, but was immediately shut down there by the Heimerdinger. 13-12 now in favor of Grompies on the kill board. But of course, the distinct advantage being that the red inhibitor is gone, and that for a brief moment, their turrets were under attack, and so they are damaged, which is going to be a huge potential opportunity there for Nat and Joe. Of course, we've seen plenty of times before, just this season, teams winning despite having less kills. Nutsilver immediately jumps on EJK as Jinx there, killing time for Kami to jump into the fight as well. The inhibitor safe with a massive pick there from Jinx. Now 13 picks apiece here. Kami as well joining the fight, and EJK is going to be out of it for about 30 seconds. This is the perfect opportunity for blue team to push here.
Yeah, Nutsilver coming back just in time to stop that Smolder, getting that pick. Smolder unable to do anything. But with that item advantage, they are going to be able to push with that full health as well. Jinx here with that Bloodthirster, which means she's going to be a lot more survivable in those fights with all of that lifesteal and potential of shield. So yeah, team fights going to be a lot more in their favor, especially if Joe can make those picks with that Shaco. But also Nutsilver going to be able to take out those Heimerdinger turrets due to outranging them. Smolder here also with that Bloodthirster, so going to be a little bit more difficult for them to lock him down. But yeah, some really good gameplay from Nat and Joe here.
Definitely, they are playing absolutely brilliantly. Definitely an improvement from week one. They are absolutely strutting their stuff in this first game here since week one. Of course, they took a break in week two, but they have lost none of their edge. CC'd though is Nutsilver. That's going to stop her dead in her tracks. But Joe now jumping in on Rattley, but EJK responds with some massive damage and does take out Shaco there. So 14-13 now. Grompies proving again how good they are in these team fights. Obviously, the item advantage was there for Nat and Joe, but unable to capitalize there. Grompies are making it happen with their backs against the wall here, and now potentially a push on the cards here. 20 seconds until Kami as Shaco will be back in the game here, of course, able to purchase some items in that time. But now as we tick over 15 minutes, Grompies not out of it just yet.
Yeah, Joe, they're getting that Shadow Flame and that Oblivion Orb, which is going to negate a lot of their healing. Heimerdinger there with Ominous Pact, so we're going to be getting a little bit of Omnivamp, giving him some survivability, but as we mentioned, Smolder with that Bloodthirster. So that anti-heal is going to prove pretty useful. Shaco sending his clone to try and get some damage, but not making it far enough. However, that clone will be off cooldown pretty quickly. Smolder going in on the Jinx there, but Kami getting behind, going to get that pick on Heimerdinger. Nutsilver going to get that kill, but Smolder just being able to do a little bit more damage. Smolder taking that double kill, which is going to let them push and probably get that inhibitor.
Yeah, now the tide is really, really turning here. Around the 16-minute mark, we saw the red inhibitor had respawned, so that advantage erased, and now it's going to go completely the other direction, and that's after a massive Smolder double kill for EJK there. Now 16-14. It's been a kill fest. It's been a bloodbath in this match here, and now they're immediately attacking the turrets here. Kami and Newt Silver nowhere to be seen. They're still on their respawn timers. The minion wave should do the last of the damage to that blue turret, and it does. So that inhibitor now will not respawn. And now Nat and Joe with their backs against the wall, it all seemed like they could potentially take their first win, and it may well just be crumbling around them. They have got their backs against the wall massively now.
Yeah, again, all they need is just one pick, either on that Heimerdinger, but preferably that Smolder, as Smolder is the one doing the majority of the damage at the moment. But Smolder just scaling, as a scaling champion, the longer it goes, the more difficult he's going to be to pick off. However, some good poke damage here, getting rid of that Bloodthirster shield. But yeah, going to be a struggle, but with some good gameplay and some good picks, I think it's still possible for Nat and Joe to get a win. Newt over there getting CC'd by Heimerdinger. The burn just taking her out. Kami gonna get picked on by the Smolder, but Kami putting up a fight, but unfortunately getting executed by the Smolder passive, and I think this might be it.
That is going to be game 25 seconds before either Nat and Joe player is on the board, and so that is going to be GG's in the chat. 18-14 on the kill board, an absolute bloodbath, and it's going to end in victory in match 2 for Grompies, meaning for the 4th game in a row in the Hive Esports League of Legends series, it's going to end in a stalemate, meaning the elimination race at the halfway point of the league phase is going to hot up even more. But George, your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, we had some, probably my favorite week so far, actually. We had some really good gameplay from Seal9 and Sveti Vijasenyi. They had a very dynamic game. We saw some really good plays from CO9, but we also saw a little bit of a comeback from Flowers and Autumn. And then in game 2, some very goofy, whimsy plays in that first game, with Nat and Joe taking that victory, but unfortunately getting a little bit outscaled in that second game, but still played really well and brought back the whimsy that Hive had been lacking a little bit.
Definitely brought back some of the whimsy, and a massively aggressive as well game there. 18-14 on the kill board is by far 32 kills between both teams. By far the single highest scoring, I suppose, individual match of the season so far. So definitely a far cry from what we were seeing in week 1. We saw some very passive gameplay, sort of 0-0 after 10 minutes, and it's, but I mean, 18-14 is quite the kill count for both teams there. But absolutely an astounding match 2 there, as Nat and Joe sought after that first win of the season. They couldn't quite get it. They'll have to settle for a draw, but it's points on the board regardless in their fight against elimination here. At the halfway point, though, they do still find themselves in the bottom half of the leaderboard, but it's all still to play for. Anyone can win it, and anyone can still be eliminated. It is truly anyone's game over the halfway point. And of course, we'll have all the points and stuff for you on the socials, which you will find just down there if you want to keep track of exactly how the series is doing. But George, we shall hand over to you.
Yes, we will be back next week on Wednesday at the same time, 6 p.m. And I'm not sure who will be playing. However, it will be on our socials, and it will be not over there, over there. So be there or be square. Thank you for being here, and we will see you next week.
It's ceiling.